The team that builds a business, is rarely the team that scales it. But if you scale without structure, it creates fragility, and it's like building a house on sand. It will fall down. Most founders don't realize is that actually the very behaviors that helped you build the business to say 1 million, 3 million, even 5 million are the exact behaviors that will actually cap you at maybe 7 million or 10 million. The 5 brutal decisions that every CEO must make to scale beyond 10 million pounds. That is what we're talking about. Scaling a business beyond 10 million, it's not a marketing challenge. It's not a branding challenge either. It's not even a strategy problem, which you might think it is. It's actually a leadership evolution problem. So what does that mean? Most founders don't realize is that actually the very behaviors that helped you build the business to say 1 million, 3 million, even 5 million are the exact behaviors that will actually cap you at maybe 7 million or 10 million. So today I'm going to walk through the 5 brutal decisions that every CEO must make if they want to break through that ceiling and get to the 10 million plus. And I call them brutal because they're uncomfortable, right? Emotional and deeply personal, but they are non-negotiable. After 30 years in business, this is what I've learned. So, decision 1, outgrow early loyalty. Now, this is the one that, no one really wants to talk about, because when you start a business, you hire scrappy, right? You hire people who believe in the vision, people who were there when it was messy, when they kind of bought into the early founder years. They're loyal, they grafted with you, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. The team that builds a business, is rarely the team that scales it. So scaling demands some different things. Scaling demands specialization, operational depth, strategic maturity, emotional resilience. And sometimes the people who actually helped you build cannot necessarily operate at the level required in order to scale. And this isn't about disloyalty. It really isn't. It's about capacity. And as a CEO, you absolutely have to separate gratitude from growth. And I've seen founders hold on to too long out of guilt, and that costs millions. And if someone is no longer aligned with where the business is going, then of course, it's your responsibility to actually create the business of the future, not the past. And that's the brutal truth. But it is leadership, and it can be tough. Now, decision 2, kill what's comfortable. I know, hard, isn't it? Most 10 million ceilings are built on yesterday's success. And you have a product that works, right? You have a revenue stream that's profitable. You have a model that feels safe, but comfort can create stagnation. And the most dangerous words in business that I've heard for many, many years are, it's working. Because working often means plateau, right? So to scale beyond 10 million, you've got to really ask, is this model scalable? Or is it just sustainable? Is this product future-proofed? Or is it familiar? Sometimes scaling requires, cannibalizing your own success, which sounds sort of ironic, doesn't it really? But launching something new, repositioning, raising prices, changing structure, it does feel risky, and it can be risky. Business is risky, but comfort is seductive, and it can keep you stuck. And it's the leaders who scale are the ones willing to disrupt themselves before the market disrupts them. So then let's talk about decision 3. Decision 3, you've got to hire above your ego. And this one really does separate founders from really global, scalable CEOs, because when you actually build something from scratch, your identity becomes intertwined with it, and actually being the most capable person in the room at that time. You know everything, you approve everything, you have the final say, but scale actually really does demand something more radical than that. You must hire people who are better than you, That's what true leadership is about. Better operators, better financial strategies, better at systems, better at marketing, better at execution. And here's where you have to let your ego go. Founders, they often say that they want A players, but they actually hire people that they can control. And scaling beyond 10 million requires surrendering control in areas that maybe you once dominated. And that can feel really uncomfortable, but it's what you need to do because it forces you to redefine your own role, right? And you stop being the hero, you become the architect. You become the designer, the strategist. And if you are still the smartest person in the room at 10 million, you've actually built a dependency model. You haven't actually built a scalable business, so be honest with yourself. So let's get into decision 4. You've got to build systems before you need them. And most founders wait until something breaks. And listen, I've been there before when I've advised smaller businesses, or it might be when the cash flow gets tight that we change, or the delivery suffers, or clients start to complain. It's very reactive leadership, all of that. And businesses don't scale cleanly. If you want to move beyond £10 million, you absolutely need to put the structures and the processes in place. Financial forecasting clarity, leadership layers where they're needed, delegation frameworks, KPI accountability, decision-making protocols. You need more governance. All of this stuff can absolutely feel like it's strangling you, but it will set you free before chaos hits. Systems feel slow when you're growing quickly. But if you scale without structure, it creates fragility. And it's like building a house on sand. It will fall down. So I've seen businesses grow really fast and collapse even faster, not because the demand wasn't there, but because the infrastructure wasn't. So it's a real watch out. So if your business is dependent on your personal involvement in everything and you don't have scale, you actually have stress, right? So there's a lot in that: systems, processes, governance. But what about decision 5? This is about reinventing yourself. It always is an inside job. And this is the hardest one sometimes because every revenue level demands a new version of you, right? The scrappy founder who hustled to get a few $100,000 in the door cannot be the same as someone that's leading a 15 million, 150 million pound business. Your thinking's got to change, your emotional regulation, your communication style, your decision velocity, your risk tolerance. It all needs to shift. And here's the uncomfortable question, who do you need to become to lead the next level in your business? Not what do you need to do, what do you need to become as a person, as a leader? Because scaling isn't about adding more effort. It's actually about upgrading your identity. Most founders hit 10 million and stall because actually they're trying to scale with an outdated leadership operating system, an outdated leadership mindset. And it's those businesses, they only grow to the level of their leaders' sort of self-concept, really, and their leadership mindset. So scaling beyond 10 million, it isn't about hacks. It's about courage, the courage to really outgrow people, disrupt comfort, surrender your ego, install structure, systems, processes, and reinvent yourself. Revenue doesn't scale, leadership does. And it's really, this episode that I wanted to share this with you, because if this has challenged you, well, that's the point. It's meant to. So actually, if it's resonated with you, reach out to us, have a conversation with us. But equally, if you have people in your world, in your network that are struggling with some of this, share the episode. Subscribe to Brave, Bold, Brilliant on YouTube, on iTunes and Spotify, because we're here to help. Join the community. And remember, actually, we have a whole range of programs to help you, your teams, and your business scale up. So you want to get to 10 million plus, it might be our Executive Edge program that you need, where we spend 3 days deeply immersed together with the board, actually doing a fantastic offsite. It could be that you need leadership masterminds for your leadership team, working together as a 6-month program on implementation. Really relevant content is going to help them scale. It might be that actually Rise Academy is perfect for your business, really focused on building the future leaders in your leadership team, fully digital, fully online, highly cost effective. Or it might be one-to-one business mentoring that you need at an executive level. And that could be directly with me. So whatever it is, we are here to help. So make sure you check out the website, www.brave-bold-brilliant.com, and join this community. Don't hold yourself back. You only have one life. Let's make it count. And remember, it's by being brave and bold that you will unlock your brilliant.